to again welcome you all to this groundbreaking launch of the UN Peace Building Fund for the Northeast Nigeria. This project was birthed against the backdrop of the visit of the UN Secretary General to Maiduguri in 2022, where it was decided that the UN country team supports or complements states and federal government in achieving and sustaining peace-building projects. This was subsequently approved by the UN PBSO in New York, which marks the reason why we are here today. Thanks to the United Nations Secretary General, Borno State indeed highly appreciates the effort. However, this UN Joint Peace Project brings together a consortium of 4 UN agencies: UNICEF, UNODC, IOM, and UNDP, working closely with relevant state government ministries and agencies to complement the ongoing efforts of the Borno state government in the implementation of the Borno model, which is considered as a homegrown innovative solution to peace. This joint UN project will serve as a special purpose vehicle for multi-stakeholder dialogue, engagement, and partnership with relevant stakeholders, including government, local government areas, traditional and religious leaders, as well as local communities, to ensure the successful implementation of the Borno model. As you may know, the Borno state government initiated the Borno model in 2022 in response to the voluntary mass exit which started in late 2021. The model is an integrated process implemented in 5 steps, which includes reception, evaluation, management, and release of ex-associates and fighters, as well as retaining those that need to be retained for continued processing by the authorities. Thanks to His Excellency for being proactive, and the chairman of the committee, its members, and other development partners for putting together this wonderful model. However, details of the model will be presented after the tea break. It is worth noting that the voluntary mass exit has provided opportunities which inter alia includes opening avenues for potential exits of many more individuals, including women forced into marriages and children whose combatant and non-combatant husbands and fathers has died as a result of the conflict. Secondly, it has also created an opportunity for more farmlands made available to community members and those who are resettling, reintegrating for agricultural-based livelihoods and facilitating community expansions in view of changing security and safety situations. Notwithstanding the many benefits, it is expected that the PBF will contribute in a more meaningful way at the different levels of implementation of the Borno model, and it will be mainstreamed and guided by the key sustainable development goals principles, leaving no one behind, including people living with disabilities, gender equality, and women empowerment. On behalf of the ministry, I wish you a very successful launching ceremony and implementation in the government. So, from Operation Safe Corridor, after the DDRR program, those from Borno who are in the majority are returned to the Borno state government through the Ministry of Women Affairs for final reintegration. So one is a federal initiative in collaboration with the Borno state government. On the other is a Borno state initiative in collaboration with the federal government, and as we see it, other states are also keen into the Borno model. Consequently, the model encompasses 3 before that, the overarching objective of the Borno model is to facilitate the return of individuals and families living armed groups in Borno State to their communities of origin in a manner compliant with state, federal, and international legal imperatives and in line with the person with chronic illnesses and different needs and capacities. It's critical that we understand that a lot of these former incidents were themselves victims. They were forced into captivity. They come out through the Bua, through Goza, through Bama, through Monguno, through Mafa, through Mate, through Kukawa, and all the local government areas that share proximity with Sambisa or other forests habited by the former insurgents. The social workers support joint security team, which include the civilian JTF, the DSS, civil defense, military police, mobile police, NDLA, immigration service, to screen, categorize, and profile them. The DSS has the biodata, the biometric machine. So each former insurgent that comes out is captured. That also helps to fast track their movement. You know, people were saying that they have been going to the bush. It's not possible. We have their track record. Everyone that has passed through the military and the state agencies is properly profiled. And that is why when we say they should come for biometric again, you saw over 6,000 hovering in front of Hajiya. If they had gone back to the bush, there was no way we would have tracked them and get them well traced and recaptured. Categories are farmers, low risk and high risk. Local government authorities verify with communities of return and support transportation. As soon as they come to Hajiya from wherever exit point, we invite the local government officials and the representative of the traditional ruler of that area of the local government, the religious leaders, the civilian JTF, from the local government who come to Hajiya, capture the pictures of these guys, go back to the communities of return to verify. These guys say they are farmers. Are they really farmers? It is the report we get back from these stakeholders at the local level that determines the next line of action. Center-based therapy, providing medical screening, family tracing and verification that involves representation of the Shehu of Borno, identify family members and community and religious leaders. At the point of entry to the Hajiya or any of our reception centers, we ensure that they are properly screened, especially when it comes to the medical status. Quite a number of them come out with very life-threatening diseases. And at the point of entry, if there is anyone that has a disease that is contagious, we isolate them. And all that we do is in collaboration with all the federal and state government medical institutions. Because at the center, whatever we're able to do medically is very limited. But we work, including the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, because some of them come out highly traumatized. And so we make sure that when the challenges are beyond facilities we have in the center, we reach out to federal and state medical institutions. Oath of good conduct taken by farmers before being transported back to their communities of return would start up kits for livelihood provided. Yes, after all the screening by the various agencies, the final act that is done is oath taking. Believe you me, they are very, very sensitive on swearing with the Holy Book. The moment they know that they are lying, they will never agree to swear with the Holy Quran. And so for us, that's the final point of screening. When all is done, we now call the chief imam or his representative with the Ministry of Justice to administer the oath of one, confirming that yes, I'm a farmer. Two, when I go back to the communities, I will not engage in any criminal act. And so far, it has worked for us. Before they board the vehicle that has been brought by the officials of the local government areas for conveyance to their areas of return. economic reintegration, follow-up at community level. It's a very, very cumbersome activity, this particular one. You are releasing over 42,000 people with their wives and children. There's little the government can do, but the government is trying. A certain amount is given to them to return to their constituencies. But with this peace building fund, it is our belief, the prayer by His Royal Highness, that they need to be economically supported in their areas of return for a sustainable means of livelihood will be addressed through this fund. What we had before was okay, but it cannot be enough, because after a period of 6 months, we give them money and then food items. But after a period of 6 months, those of them that do not invest that money very well, gets into trouble. And these are the kind of people that will put pressure and strain at the local government level. At the end of this exercise, I'm sure I will go back to the drawing table as suggested by our Royal Father, so that a more sustainable means of keeping them in the areas of return will be properly adhered to. Key opportunities. The model is flexible and adaptable to the local context as well as other pragmatic solutions. The Borno State Government DDR program addresses the known characteristics of the different groups while being responsive to the needs of the individual associates, including those with special needs such as persons living with disability, the elderly, women and children. There is need to continuously mobilize funds from all sectors, both public and private, both locally and internationally, to successfully implement DDR interventions in Borno and the affected lectured countries. Partners, both locally and internationally, are showing interest for this support, and that is what we are witnessing today. Ex-associates can be turned into drivers of peace via a quality DDR program. Transitional justice is now a leading conversation which promises speedy reconciliation at the local level. I think this is self-explanatory. The different phases of the Borno model. Yes, a lot of people have been asking us on the different phases. Not stages this time, but the phases. From one point to the other. I've explained, but this is a diagrammatical explanation of what goes on. They come out of the bush. That's after expressing interest for voluntary surrender with no financial reward to come out. And the government with partners create the enabling environment for them to lay down their arms, raise their hands, and they are received by the military and handed over to the Borno State government. Transportation. Once they come out of the bush, they are transported, movement of all surrendered persons and associated persons, farmers, women, children, etc., are taken to the military formation and subsequent movements from LGS to Maiduguri, especially Hajj camp. The third phase is identification and evaluation, which I've already made. They are identified, they are evaluated. Are you a high risk? Are you a minor? Are you a farmer? That is what takes place there. Then we have center-based management, which is very critical. The way they come out, highly traumatized some of them, especially the unaccompanied and separated children who were taken away from their parents. Their state of mind, it's very, very traumatic. And so we do a very thorough psychosocial program for them. Before we sort them out, those that are unaccompanied or separated, they didn't come out with their families, we move them to the Bulunkutu Transit Center, where the PSS continues. Those that are with their families, there is shelter in Hajj camp, where we keep them. Then we also have those that are not married, but they are probably minors. We also keep them in a separate facility. Process to be released from government authority. This is done through categorization, as I have said. We carry the minors unaccompanied, widows, divorcees, people with living disabilities to Bulunkutu. Those single young men who may have participated somehow in activities are given a separate accommodation but are also kept in Hajj camp. While families, husband, wife, and children are kept, we have shelters for them. The children attend classes. We have temporary learning spaces within the camp. The young boys also attend classes and engage in skill acquisition activities. While the women, we have a trauma counseling center, especially victims of gender-based violence. We have specific centers with personnel that talk to them about their experiences in the bush. And while this is ongoing, we engage them in activities. Either they are milling their melons or doing some cap making, so that there's a conversation. Through these conversations, they open up. We now know what they went through in the bush and try to address, calm them down, and invite professionals to, sort of support them psychologically. All this is ongoing in Hajj camp and Bulunkutu. That is why at the end of their stay, they go out with skills and with support from the partners. They are reintegrated with economic startup parks. We've made a lot of tellers. If you come to Hajj camp, you see the beautiful Bama caps they are making. And each time we have visitors, they patronize them. The women are also encouraged to do some skill acquisition. They are into catering. We have a catering department. They make a lot of cookies and other pastries. We have where the young boys are taught how to barb. We have those that are into shoemaking. If you go and see our product, we call them the resilience shoes. Beautiful canvases and other shoes. We hope one day all of you have the opportunity to visit Hajj camp and see the activities that is ongoing. And this is supported greatly by our partners. We have a special section that UNICEF runs for young children, especially those that have psychosocial, psychiatric and psychosocial problems. We have partners that engage them, opens up the horizon for them and make them build some level of confidence before they resume classes in the temporary learning spaces there. And while all this is going on, we have a hospital, we have a clinic that was hitherto owned by the Hajj Commission, but this has been converted and a new one built for us again, because there's hardly a day that we don't register new arrivals or babies there. So the hospital is very, very active, but if the illness is beyond us, for instance, when we had outbreak of measles and cholera, we invited WHO, IOM, UNDP, UNICEF, and other partners, and also the MSF that supported us greatly under the direction of the Ministry of Health. Phase one, out of the bush. What are the required actions? This is actually the Borno method, but I'm telling you our practical experience on the field, which is easier to understand than the strategic communication. Yes, the government conducts public information and communication campaigns directed at multiple targeted audiences. Yes, there used to be a communication gap because for His Excellency, when they exited, where he was between the devil and the deep blue sea, receiving them will like being insensitive to the victims. Letting them continue will like, okay, let them come and continue committing the atrocities and displacing people and communities. And that was why a stakeholders meeting was held on the 21st of August, 2021, where every stakeholder, including members of the National Assembly, State Assembly, our traditional rulers, key political actors, and especially the victims of the insurgency, who agreed collectively that between the two, it is better to allow them to surrender so that we can have some relative peace. And that is what gave birth to what we are experiencing today, and the relative peace we are also having in Borno and environs. Target group are the ex-fighters, farmers, etc., community engagement, dialogue, and awareness raising. This is one of the most critical aspects because they are going back to their communities. And so if the communities are not being carried along, then the program is dead on arrival. There is no way you can return a former insurgent, for instance, to Burma, without consulting with the traditional head of that community, without talking to the security agencies there, without talking to the religious leaders. And that is what the Borno model does. It's a comprehensive, it's an all-inclusive, it is a holistic process that every stakeholder is key and critical. Military-civilian partnership, yes. It's important because they exit through the military. And if we don't have that understanding, that cooperation, there is no way we can work. And alhamdulillah, the relationship between the military, especially that of Operation Haram, and the Borno state government is very excellent. Even yesterday, they got a Chibok, day before yesterday, one of the Chibok girls came out and they gave us in the ministry. It is because of that understanding. We share information. General Ishaq is not here, but he's very close to the boys. He gets information, relates it to the military, and they take action. And also the boys give information. These are the vulnerable areas. This is who is where. So this relationship is what we are benefiting from, and so much result has been achieved in the recent past. Partners, yes. Federal government, state government, the local media especially, community-based organizations, and the UN agencies. All these are playing very critical and important role. Transportation, logistics support, yes, we move them from the local government, point of entry to Hajj camp, from Hajj camp to the communities for those that have been cleared. And of course, while this is going on, there is need for safety, which again, the collaboration between the Borno state government and the military organizations, very excellent. Yeah. Identification and evaluation, I've talked about that, how we do the identification. I've told you we have Hajj, Bulunkutu, and Shokari camps. I've told you about the educational services we provide, which includes not only basic but civic education, peace and religious. We have orientation programs for them where we invite all the stakeholders, police, civil defense, National Orientation Agency, DSS, to talk to them before they are reintegrated. And of course, our partners, IOM, UNICEF, UNDP, UNODC, MSF, international and local NGOs. Ambassador Shehu is always very active in our programs to talk to them about civic responsibilities, their rights, and also the rights of the people over there. Process to release from government authority to community. I've already talked about that, very thorough and transparent. And while they are being reintegrated, again, I will come to the issue of funding. When you release somebody, maybe you give them stipends for a certain period and some food, it will get exhausted. But through the Peace Cohesion Platform, that is partnership between us and our partners, when they are going back, for each former insurgent we are reintegrating, we ensure that 2 vulnerable people from the communities of return are also empowered. We started this with the candidates from clients from Operation Safe Corridor. If we receive 600 former clients and they are, for instance, going back to Burma, it is expected that time it was IOM will provide 1,002 startup packs for members of the community. Again, through that platform, before we reintegrate, we communicate with the local communities. Are there challenging areas, gaps that need to be fulfilled by the government or the partners? For instance, at one time in Goza, when we wanted to reintegrate, they told us that the women in that community needed to have some shops. I think it was UNDP that provided those shops, and it worked like magic, because when we return the former insurgents, we are not returning them as heroes. We are returning them as partners. We are returning them as people that regretted their action. We are returning them as victims themselves. And so the community is encouraged to receive them. If one person is returning, it is expected that 2 more people are, rehabilitated and supported, because we have families of the civilian JTF, we have traditional rulers who lost their families, we have communities that had their schools burnt, we have hospitals that were destroyed. So it's a process that involves everybody. If a community has mourning, among others, hence it is a clarion call on all stakeholders within and outside the state to ensure a smooth implementation of the model for a sustainable peace and development of our dear state. This is a quote from our father, His Excellency, the Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Umar Zulum, and indeed, this sums up what the Borno model is all about. It's about collaboration, it's about partnership. Thank you very much.